Okay, you and I have been working together since a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
You'd been on the protocol successfully before, lost 60 some pounds. You
Yeah,
made, and
about
you,
that.
yeah, and then you, through a couple of years, regained all that weight back, correct?
Mhm. Yep.
And then you decided to now get your shit together. You're going to do another round. And so you contacted me after you'd already been on the round for 3 weeks.
That is correct.
And at that point, you had started to cheat on the protocol.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's when you're like, screw this. I got to talk to Robin. She's going to set me straight.
Absolutely. That's exactly it.
Okay. So we had a consult a couple weeks ago. And one of the things that I focused on, which would you agree or not, is to accept that you're going to regain whatever weight you just lost. So it's not just accept that you're going to regain the weight you just lost, except that you're not going to lose the 60 pounds that you had once lost before. It's kind of the whole thing, correct?
Yes.
That hasn't been easy.
No. No.
Describe
No.
describe the hardest part, and if there's anything that helped you, what was it?
I mean, I I have a lot of trust in your method. Like I trust you. You made a lot of sense to my brain. And I needed to get off the crazy train. I was also in the right place to listen to you, in the sense
Yes.
that I realized that my way is a failure, and and doing it over and over again hasn't made it successful. So I need another way. I'm tired of the life that I was living, and I needed another way. So I trust you.
Mhm.
So you said to stop, and I stopped. You said to eat, and I am. You said to take those feelings attached to all the food and everything in the corner and put it in the corner. And I
Mhm.
have. And
Mhm.
it was hard because the beast reared itself over the weekend. I was very emotional about all this, and I decided to not. I just decided to listen to you, despite how I felt. I decided to listen, continue to do what we talked about. So I really feel like our interaction and the rapport has helped me get out of that hole right now.
Mhm. Yeah, well, the hardest part too, when someone's coming off of the very low calorie protocol, especially since you did it for a good 3 weeks, is that coming out of that restriction and transitioning into eating regular food, it's we had to there's a fine balance between following that transitional protocol and the 3 week transition phase Dr. Simeons describes. It's very difficult when you're dealing with that state of deprivation and excessive eating, right? When you've already begun the cheating and that pendulum swing on the very low calorie protocol, the goal is that you follow the protocol, but not at the risk of binging, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I would encourage you to follow these restrictions, but when it comes to you having these impulses, I'd rather you give yourself the freedom to eat off of the transitional protocol or the P2, P3, right?
Mhm.
It'd rather you have a piece of bread than to binge on a like 10 pieces of bread,
Yep.
right? So by
And
giving you that lenience, that there's that balancing around how not to binge while you're coming off of the protocol. So because you still have to be restrained, right? So
yep.
there was that tug of war for a little bit, and also you still wanted to maintain your losses. So you still wanted to check that, and then I would assume more than likely your desire to not regain or hope that you weren't going to regain because you held on to some degree of hope. That in that hope, there was still the need for you to be perfect on the transition out of the protocol, which in the
Yeah.
end increases your issues with food, right? pushes you back into that impulsivity to eat. So the coming off of this protocol hasn't been the most gracious, I'm assuming.
No, it was I was in a situation last week where I was like, well, I can scrap this round.
Mm-hmm.
I am scrapping this round. I'm not following the transition appropriately. I will gain the weight. It will happen rapidly. I'm not fixing it. All right. Okay. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
That was.
I have to get over it, right? That's.
Okay. So it took a couple of days, and then I wanted a piece of bread, and I ate it.
Mm-hmm.
And said, fine. Oh, fuck it. I don't care.
Right. Well, and so in the end, coming off of the protocol and then having to look at the big picture, looking at, last discussion we had, you were like, Robin, this really sucks. I hate this. This is like shitty. I don't like this feeling. I don't like this. I don't want to be here. And our main focus was for you to stay there. That's when we talked about backing yourself into that corner. You're not going to diet anymore. So you're going to have to be okay with your body image. So you're kind of stuck between not wanting the body image and not wanting what you have and not wanting to diet it either.
I mean, it's there in the sense that you kind of want your cake and eat it too, to use the phrase, in the sense that you want the body, but you don't want the work. And because but then I went to the point where I said, okay, I actually don't care about what that body looks like anymore because I really don't want the work.
Yes, that was where you actually realized I am not going to do that to myself anymore. I've put myself in a cage for decades, trying to fix this body, trying to please, trying to feel better about it. And I cannot do that. The suffering of my coping isn't worth it anymore.
No, I mean, really.
So then you're forced at that point to then really question well, why do I want that body? Because it's out of reach. I am not willing to do what it's going to take to get there. Plus, I'm not willing to do what it's going to take to just manage it, keep it, maintain it, make sure it stays there, defend it, which is really...
the latter is the truth.
I know.
The latter is the truth.
It's worse.
That's worse.
Correct.
I've done the protocol, and I've done a million other types of diets, and so the investment in the actual, situation has been done. I've reinvented that wheel maybe 1,000 times already. So I've done the work. It's the impossibility and the implausibility part of the maintenance and the fear and the psychosis that goes with the maintenance that I do not want a part of. So then I don't want to do diets because I don't want maintenance. So I'm done.
And now you have to look at what you don't want to look at. This is where that cognitive dissonance.
Oh yeah.
It's real. That means I have to look at what I have, look at what I've done, look at the consequences, think about all the stuff you would not have done knowing there was no possible way to fix this. All of the feasting before famine that you would never have done if you knew the famine wasn't going to work, wasn't going to be manageable, and wasn't maintainable.
Interestingly enough, now I've only been off the protocol now and not doing maintenance and not doing all this stuff for a few weeks. The impulsivity of my eating has really, in this short amount of time, has calmed down. It started to I don't even judge the fact that this morning I had one of those little rolls with raisins on it. Oh my God, if you had talked to me about this 3 weeks ago, I would have been I had a roll. I'm going to confession right now. I'll be back in an hour.
Going to confession. I have some penance to do. Yeah, well, do you see the link between you relaxing around the body you have and the willingness to gain at this point, and how that diffuses this pressure that you have to restrict?
Look, we're lucky. We live in America. We have good sizes. If I need to size up, I'll size up. I just don't want to go on the crazy train. That's
No.
all.
I want to ask the question again.
Sure.
Do you see the link between your lenience with your body, how you've become lenient with what it's going to be? Big, small, anything in between. How you've become almost blind to letting the body be what it's going to be. How that has impacted your relationship with food.
Yes.
Okay. That's a very important thing to witness. It's directly related. How you were with food before had everything to do with the non-negotiable desire to be thinner. Thinner is better. That's the only direction your weight can go. That's the only direction your mind is going. Therefore, your food constantly has to be restricted, and now you have all that drama, that pressure. Right?
Oh my God.
You're fighting against our primal wiring to prioritize food over everything when it comes to life and death.
Yeah.
So that's why food was such a big, magnified, important thing in your head. And you'll notice now that it's really no big deal. It's much less important, and it's not front and center anymore. It's not the center or the nucleus of your brain. It is becoming kind of the backstage. I know I need to eat. I know I'm hungry. I don't know what I'm going to eat until I'm there. It becomes like something it's like going to the bathroom. I know today I'm going to use the restroom multiple times.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. I'm hungry. I'm going to go eat.
Yes. And the strain around choice, right? Because I think it's important to talk about the strain around choice. Some people have dieted so much that they believe that any type of eating it's guilt-ridden. I should not be eating because they feel that fat and that unlovable and that type of failure, to where any type of hunger and any food consumption, even if it's healthy, they feel bad about.
Oh yeah, I was wondering at one point, why can't I have photosynthesis and just be done with it?
That is hilarious. That's something I would. Why can't we just have photosynthesis? That's straight from the mouth of an anorexic.
Pretty much.
Right?
I like food.
Well, we all do. It's like if there'd be something wrong if you didn't like food. That means there's something wrong, right? So, you no longer have that restraint, and food is no longer something you have to keep in a cage. Or you don't have to be in a cage now when you're around food. And so it changes how you're responding to that food in the present moment. And even like when it comes to hunger, it just releases the stress and the pressure, which is why eating to hunger, and the idea of eating to hunger, really becomes intuitive. It's part of our wiring. It's like peeing to urinating when you feel like you need to go pee. It's kind of like, yeah, you get that feeling and you go pee, and it's gratifying. Yep. Again, it's similar. It's a similar response, right? So it becomes like, I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to hold in my urine. Like, I'm not going to have access to a bathroom for 6 hours.
Yep.
Right? Like, if you knew you were only going to get to excrete once a day, you're going to have a lot of stress around it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? All of a sudden it starts to, because that's part of the basic fundamental survival needs, is safety and excretion. So anyway, if you look at it from that parallel, it's like, well, no wonder I was so freaking obsessed about food, because it was limited. It wasn't abundant. And I've been taught and brainwashed that it's dangerous, that it's a direct threat, that if I eat that bread, that not only I'm going to have stomach cancer and yeast overgrowth, but that I'm going to end up with like colon cancer and fat. I'm going to be fat.
Yep.
Which means I'm not lovable. So that bread equates to not lovable. It's just so bizarre. Even though our wiring is saying, ooh, it tastes good, it's safe, right? That would be the primal response to it. It tastes good.
Well,
It's safe.
well, our
Pleasure.
primal brain has nothing to do with all the other wiring that society has done to all of
It's
us.
called
So.
brainwashing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And they use tons of fear, and they'll say there's evidence, but yet, having a piece of bread, you don't have cancer right away. Anyway, so it's not easy letting go of the dream of thinness. It's not.
No, I was in a mourning phase. I'm not gonna lie.
I know you're not. You were in it when we talked last on Friday.
Yep.
Friday or Thursday, I can't remember. So 4 or 5 days ago. So I was really curious to talk to you just to see if you're still in that mourning phase, or if you have really come to realize that it's a waste of your time, it's a waste of your brain, waste of energy, waste of purpose. It's like chasing a mirage with you get nothing out of it. Besides waste of time. It fills time up.
Yeah. There's too many other things going on in life right now that I need to pay attention to. So.
Do you think that this is something that you're going to want to try to fix later?
So a part of me is actually concerned about that as well, because right now I'm okay with it. I'm honest with you. There is that little part of my brain that says, well, if you get if you get fed up, are you gonna try to fix it? And I don't think so. I think if I wanted, for example, if I want to do things, I'm not going to do things to fix it. I'm going to do them because I enjoy them.
Yes, that's intrinsic versus extrinsic.
Yes, if I want to eat a salad, I'm not going to eat a salad because the whole salad has 240 calories in it. I'm going to eat a salad because I want to eat a salad. It
tastes good. It sounds good.
So even if I want to incorporate healthy things like in my life, my focus is different now. It's going to be because that's what I want to do, not because I need to. I have to do everything perfect in order to lose this weight.
Okay, I want to make sure that you understand when you say healthy things that you are speaking from the mouth of brainwashing.
Yes,
okay.
I understand.
Just really important because
what I mean is, like, for example, if I want to eat peanut butter and jelly, or if I want to eat an orange, or if I want to, you know what I mean, like whatever it is I want to eat. If I say to myself, look at me, I'm having an orange. I'm not saying, I need to eat the orange because of this. You know what I mean?
Because it's better for me than that.
Exactly.
That's not okay, right?
I'm saying I just want to say if I choose the orange, it's because I'm choosing the orange, you know?
Mm-hmm. And just because you're choosing an orange doesn't mean you can't have the other thing later, or when you want it, or when it becomes something that sounds good to you.
That's what this is where my brain is right now.
Awesome. That's present. You're living in the present.
Yeah.
You're living in the moment with food when you're hungry, when it shows up. What sounds good?
Mm-hmm.
I can have this. I can have that. I want to go back to the body image.
Mm-hmm.
You could at some point decide you're going to fix the body you're in, but what happens? What's going to happen?
I'm going to get on that train. So the train that I don't want to go on. So I don't know. In terms of fixing things or fixing the body that I'm in, it depends on what you mean by fixing. If you're saying healing my body from the cycling of dieting and not dieting and dieting and not dieting, that is something I want to do because I don't want to have all this, hormonal imbalance in my body. But it's not because I need to get into a string bikini. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Well, and do you believe that if you stop sending the message to the body that there's threat, there's problems, feast before famine, if you stop doing that the damage, if there's been damage done, that the body over
Mm-hmm.
time can heal itself.
Yes.
I do too.
Yeah.
Symptoms will
100%.
go away if you haven't already noticed.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. That's actually that's my goal. That's what I want. I want this to. I just I don't want that in my body. Like I don't want all these stress hormones and all this other crazy stuff, and that I don't want. But it's not because I have to like it the method is not to gain the ideal body weight image persona. The goal is to heal the body.
So
whenever.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
The goal is to let the body heal itself, or for you to
Yes.
focus on making sure we heal your body.
No.
Do you know you've heard the difference, right?
No. Me calming down and allowing like the process to work itself out so that I become healed. Not that I'm going to do this. Like like I'm not going to put the onus on myself. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, it's not about you anymore.
Yeah. It's not like okay, if I didn't do this, I'm never going to be healed. I'm going to be ill. No, my brain is not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying I just want this to all get better with time, with this method, like with what we're doing now.
What if the body that you're in stays exactly the same for like 20 years?
That would be awesome.
Right.
I would.
I love that you just said that, because 2 weeks ago you would have been like, "That's terrible. That's the worst thing ever. I can't even. Oh my god."
No. Me 20 years from now, looking exactly the way I do, is a miracle, and I would love that.
Right? So you have to believe it's a miracle right now and love it right now.
Yep, it is a miracle right now, and it works.
And it works under stress. That's the coolest part. Like you've been stressing the crap out of it. You're in the environment you've put it in isn't what it's meant to be living in for a chronic period of time.
Oh no, I'm in a chronic fishbowl of stress.
Yeah, and it's still miraculously working beautifully, perfectly.
Yep.
Look at just for example, that what you were saying about your mother-in-law coming in and looking for your son, waking you up, and that reaction was beautiful. Like fight or flight. Woke you up. You're.
I tell you, I was like, I freaked out. It took a whole hour.
Yeah, that is so healthy. That response was healthy. How long it took to recover was probably about right.
I was darting, looking at the door going,
something's wrong with my son. Yeah, so, you could look at this and go, wow, under the circumstance, the environment, because really it's about your environment. And you've had a lot to do with the environment your body's been having to manage. And so if you quit placing it in those environments, your body's really got its own way of running things anyways. You just have to be okay with how it's doing it. So even in the quest for health, you have to really question your beliefs around unhealth.
Mm-hmm.
You really do, and this is me talking to you, a doctor.
Yeah.
Question your beliefs around what health really is. And think of all of the dynamic environmental influences that your body is in one given moment. What any given moment is managing. Temperature, pressure, not just your thoughts, but what's coming into your eyeballs through the nose, the air that you're breathing in, whatever's in the air that you're breathing, the sunlight or lack of sunlight, your sleep deprivation. Think of everything that's going on that your body's having to manage on top of all of the, viruses that you're exposed to in the ER every time you work there. Just think of everything that the body is capable of doing and question your thoughts that it's unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
When the evidence is that you're freaking bionic, especially when you've added to that chronic bouts of starvation and extreme eating.
Mhm. I agree with you 100%.
Like, holy cow, all you got to do is stop what you have control over, right?
Yep.
I'm not suggesting that you go live in a vacuum somewhere, but
Could you suggest that? Could you?
could I? Please.
Listen, Robin told me I have to go live in a vacuum. Bye.
I'm going to sleep 12 hours a night. I'm going to have the perfect amount of sunlight.
I'm not going to work nights anymore. No one can kick my door in. Thank you. Bye.
That would be great. But, you know, the whole drama of trying to be thinner, and even just the idea that I have to be thinner to be healthy, isn't that just messed up, considering what it takes for you to try to reach that fantasy of healthy thinness?
Just a lot of unhealthiness. So
correct. So how do you reach health through this unhealthy means?
You can't.
No, you can't. And it's not to say that it's unhealthy for the body to experience deprivation. It's just not meant to experience deprivation in a chronic way, or deprivation where it's creating this over feasting mentality to the point where it doesn't equate. The feast famine equation isn't equating.
It's too many hits on the body, to be honest with you. For example, sleep deprivation, it's sleep deprivation, it's food deprivation, it's so many levels of deprivation all together that the body can only compensate so much. Right. And the fact that it is compensating in the way that it is miraculous, as you mentioned earlier.
Correct.
But for it to get to where this idealized version of what I'm supposed to look like, give it a goddamn break is what I just told myself. I'm like, really? You're lucky you're not dead.
Under the circumstance, you are lucky. You know?
Just lucky you did not die.
But you haven't had a heart attack yet, considering that eating disorders like this have the highest morbidity rate. You're more likely to have a heart attack while you're on a diet. It's and that you have enough sanity to do what you're doing as a mom, as a wife, as a ER doctor. That's not like easygoing work that you're doing.
None of it.
So on top of that, you have to really look at, and this is something else that we've talked about too, is why you're trying to prove yourself. Right? Should anybody have to do this much work to get this type of education, to do this type of, just to prove that I'm good enough? I'm good enough. When you never really feel good enough. It never really happened for you. No matter how much degrees, how much money you make, no matter how much perfect your marriage is or your kid is or whatever, you were still feeling that it's still not good enough.
Yeah.
I mean, that had to have been there for you to be overreaching with your body image.
Of course.
And the thing is, body image, it's not like you shouldn't take care of yourself. It's not like I don't have makeup on today. It's not like I don't have earrings, or that there's a body image part of my living. But it's the overreach you have to really look at.
My job is to make sense out of chaos. Okay, that's my job. Mm-hmm. That's what I do, and a lot of that spills over into every aspect of my life. I always say that kind of like I do the same thing wherever it is, despite the address. Whether it's in the hospital, whether it's at home, that's my job. So I kind of do the same thing in a different, like, so to speak, wherever I go.
Mm-hmm.
The same in my head was in the sense of, okay, you've got these pounds, you put them on, you need to get them off. This is how it all started. You have baby weight, you need to get it off. You don't need to be carrying that around. Start dieting. Okay. Not factoring in everything else that you need to factor in before you, quote unquote, lose this weight, right? So it began. For whatever reason it was, or whatever reasons, because I wanted to feel better about myself, or whatever X, Y, and Z reasons, why I wanted to do that. That's how it all began. And then I told you, yes, there was success, and then there was failure. Then there's success, and then there's failure.
and then it never gets better. I mean, then you're always chasing the success. The success is the addiction.
Yes, then you get addicted to the possibilities of being successful.
And once and for all, putting this behind you, because once you lose the weight, you can put it behind you, right?
Yes, and then I'm done.
Yeah, that's a flippin' joke.
Yes.
That's the joke. That's where the devil got you to sign. Like, sign right here. Once you lose the weight, you're good to go. And little do you know, you are now an indentured servant to that weight loss.
Yes. And you're indentured to everything to uphold this, this belief system. Because if you don't buy into it fully, and you're not buying into it fully, it's not going to manifest. If it doesn't manifest, it's reflect heavily upon you. And
yes.
then all this crazy, then you become crazy.
Yes.
Then you go
I'm so glad that you just pointed that out.
Yeah.
It's when you internalize this is a reflection of who I am. That's the symbolism. Once it becomes symbolic of your worth as a human, oh my God, you're in trouble. You're in trouble.
Exactly.
Now you are totally controlled by the systems.
Mm-hmm.
You are now the slave of the system.
I actually called it a diet cult.
Well, it is a cult. It is a cult. It is a culture, but it is absolutely cult-ish, and there's subcults in it. People, it's really quite amazing how people identify by their exercise. I'm a triathlete. I'm a marathon runner. I do this type of. I spin. Even yoga can be used that way. CrossFit, Pilates. I mean, the layers of this stuff. I'm a swimmer. Or an athlete in a sport.
Oh yeah.
And when you look at it, bodybuilding, then you can also look at the subcultures of dieting on top of that. Veganism, vegetarianism, paleo, epipaleo, ketogenic, sugar-free. Oh, I think of all of them. I mean, it's just, and then you identify by it. And to some degree, you get some sense of tribe in that. Like this is the HCG groups are that way.
100%.
And there is a sense of community. Unfortunately, what it requires to be a part of that community is incredibly insane.
My problem was this. I felt like it was like, come to us. HCG will solve your problem, and I believe it does. I told you the place that I went to was a little different from what everybody else has done in the different forums. My problem was I said, okay, I will try your ways, and then when we came to the maintenance phase, they kind of like threw me off a cliff and said, good luck.
Good luck. Not realizing now that you are in a place that is more vulnerable psychologically than you were before you even lost the weight. You are now in a position. 100%.
I was like, where's my parachute? Oh, you don't need one. You'll be fine.
No, you just need to check your weight every day. Carry a scale with you, and you're going to do a steak day.
And then you're going to eat steak.
And then you're going to avoid all sugar and starches for the rest of your life. Permanently.
I was like, what?
So easy.
That was the part where I was just like, alright.
Well, and then you're dealing with feelings of, I'm freaking hungry. I'm excited to eat. I want to go back out. I want to go get some food. I want some diversity. So it's that primal part of the brain in the that is really driving your behavior with food at that point, but there is no control big enough.
Yes. Holy cow, you are so right. That's exactly what I went through, and I was like, oh my god, that was this is actually the part of the, like, this is like what I call this is the part of the story. This is like the fine print in the contract that you sign that
Yeah.
nobody reads. That nobody reads until you get it. You're like, oh, you want me to jump off a cliff? That's scary.
You want me to come off a cliff? And he basically stuffed down these feelings of desire for cheese.
I can't have cheese. I can't have anything. I can eat. I have no carbs.
Just take tons of selfies and try to get tons of like positive reinforcement and hope I don't want to eat because I'm getting such positive reinforcement that I no longer eat. There are people that do that post pictures, that continue to do this stuff in hopes that it will keep them from that animal brain that wants to eat to compensate. And they're closet eating too. And they probably have some bulimic tendency around, I'm just going to exercise so that gives me lenience to be able to eat like a normal human being. So now that's the insanity. This is where people who come to me say, how do you know what you're talking about? Because you've never been obese. It's like,
I don't even.
You don't have to be obese. You just have to be stuck in that crazy train. In fact, it's harder for people who are thinner because they have something to defend. So they have paranoia, shifty eyes,
It's not the number, it's the brain.
It is the brain. I'm so glad you confirmed that for me. I'm like, it has nothing to do with your adipose tissue.
It's whether you're 13% body fat or 43% body fat. It doesn't matter. It's your brain's perception to your body image and all the things that you attach to that body image that can make or break you, literally. Like,
you're correct. So
I told you when I started, I don't want to be crazy. I feel like what happened prior to our first speaking was that this triggered a crazy part of my brain, and my other brain understood that, and I was like, I need you because this is not okay.
This is not okay. Well, and you've been to some degree stuck in this cycle, right? Yeah. But what the protocol did is sped it up.
Oh my God, it did, and put me
made it smaller. It is a smaller, faster cycle versus a slower, larger cycle. Same cycle. That's the binge eating cycle. It's the same cycle for you binge eaters. You're just not willing to diet that often. Some people never actually get to dieting. They're waiting for far future after they divorce this douchebag, after their kids are out of school. They think they'll diet then. So they just spend years and years and years dieting. That's how you get 200, 300 pounds. Then, it's the same cycle between body image and the way you're eating. Same cycle. The problem is once you start losing that weight and you have that pressure to manage it, to keep it, I want to pull back a little bit, rewind. It's when you lose weight and use it to define your worth. Remember how you had said the problem is when you start to use this as a symbolic meaning of your worth or your lack of worth. So people who are binge eaters, they truly there's a lot of shame that goes into their body image because they believe thinner people are more valuable, that life would be more valuable if they were thinner. They have some idea or fantasy. If you've never been thin, you have a fantasy about life for thin people. That is absolute fantasy. And you don't question it. There's no thought about it, right? Wouldn't you agree you did the same thing to a certain extent? Thinner people have more fun, they have more freedom, they get more, and some of it is true, meaning you're getting more attention. You're getting, we could look at the discrimination. Of course it's true to some degree, but to think that they're happier or that they appreciate their life is coming from a context of feeling isolated and held captive by your morbid obesity. They don't have that relative comparison. So they may not even appreciate their thinness. In fact, they're taking their thinness and making it not thin enough. Thinking that...
Oh, yes, that is so true because you're like, well, if I did this good, I could do even better. then you get super crazy. Then you're just like, oh, now I can, basically you think about yourself like a piece of steak, and you're like, what if I trim all visible fat? So you know what I mean?
Yes, and then I have all this skin, and I have stretch marks, and then I got to remove. It never ends because you're always chasing the mirage, and it's a mirage you're creating from your state of victimization around your own life, that you believe there's a better life out there and the one you have isn't good enough.
100%.
That's the state of survival mode. I've got to fix it. I got to work on it so that I can be free. And freedom doesn't come from that. Freedom comes from taking the ability to adapt. This is a basic law of adaptation that our freaking cell biology works with. I mean, everything works with this law of adaptation. If you're capable of adapting to your environment, you're more likely to survive.
Yep.
Super simple, but biology right there.
Yep.
And what you're saying is, I can't adapt to this, so I'm going to change and work and move and reorient myself, and I'm going to do all these things, and ultimately you end up living in a state of non-adaptation.
Yeah, because your brain's always thinking that there is something better out there.
It's out there.
That you're in the process of getting it, and that you cannot settle in where you are right now because this is transitional. This is like your starter home. This is not your real home. So you can't like really settle into this home because it's your starter home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I do want to say though that it's not to say that you should settle for living with abuse, living with, because that's an adaptation a different way. That's an adaptation to something terrible because you fear something worse on the outside. That would be being held hostage. That's battered wife syndrome, right? So this isn't all or nothing, black, white. Like, I should just live with this guy because I'm not adapting to him.
No.
Right? So
that's a different story altogether.
It is. It's like the other side of the spectrum. That's like you're so scared of reality that you're literally negotiating around why it's okay to be abused and adapting to abuse. This is battered wife syndrome. This is how we negotiate and reason, and it's actually an incredible coping mechanism that we unconsciously do, right? What you and I are talking about is never being okay and constantly believing that what you have sucks, even though it's, again, relative. There's a relativity to that. Even when it comes to morbid obesity, we could talk to someone who is morbidly obese, and I could say, would you rather be blind? Would you rather have, be a burn victim? Which ailment would you rather? And we can create a spectrum, which can be very healing, very helpful for them to recognize, well, if this is my ailment, if being 300 pounds is my ailment, is it adaptable? Right? And what I find ironic, I don't know if that's the right word, is that the reason they're that big is because they've not been able to adapt even when they were 150 pounds.
Yep.
That wasn't good enough. And this issue with food and dieting, and it just can snowball. And wouldn't you agree, if you look at how you gained the 60 pounds after you lost the 60 pounds, that process of regain didn't just happen to you.
No.
There was a lot of shame involved, a lot of feeling of failure, a lot of pressure to fix it. I'm assuming along the way that you gained the 60 pounds back, that you tried to fix it at different points, that you said, I can't do it, I'm not going to do it, I've got to stop this. And each time you tried to stop it, your behavior with food got worse.
It's the fight. It's always the fight. It's the fight in your head between what you need to do, want to do, what you think you need to do, what you think you have to do, and because ultimately the equation is that the answer is incorrect. This answer is incorrect. So let me go back and fix my equation to see if I can make it correct.
Yeah, that's I love what you just said. That is like, and tell me if I'm wrong in what you're saying, but that's like that being thin is not negotiable. It always has to equate to thinner, no matter what.
Yes.
So I have to arrange food in a way so I'm going to negotiate my food. I'm going to literally sit there and negotiate how little food I can have. I'm negotiating with food, but in the end, thinner isn't negotiable.
Yes, the answer is
thinner.
Must be thinner.
Yeah.
So you have to work on the variable. Now, what are the variables?
You got it. So if you eat a 20, you got to somehow get rid of the 20.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what we're doing essentially is reversing this to where your weight is negotiable, meaning it can go up, it can go down, it can be any variety that you're going to let it be. You're blind to the body, which allows it the total negotiability, right? And it's the body's decision.
That's what the body does.
I know. That's
like it's a dynamic process. You will gain and lose weight, and this is what I tell people. I tell them you can gain and lose. For example, if you were you could gain and lose 5 pounds in a day based upon your water intake and other things.
I know.
It's like relax.
Well, I love that you said that. I'm gonna come back to that because I had a client. I'm gonna come back to that, but my point was, we gotta let go of the fantasy and mirage that you think you control it, right? That it's supposed to stay within that 1 pound range, 0.52 pounds above normal, whatever that is. You gotta let that go. Let it be negotiable. And you know what you end up doing is food is not negotiable. So we're flipping this around, meaning my access to food is free, is open, is abundant, and all of a sudden that abundance with food changes how your brain's responding to food. Naturally, it's built in wiring.
Yep.
That's the only way I can explain how my chronic binge eating bulimic clients who have been doing this for 40 years, you can imagine the deep wiring in their condition that they recover very quickly. Like within a day or two, within a few days, they don't have the same impulses. How else can you explain that other than this must be something in our ancient wiring? Because this didn't take me rewiring your brain. It's not like we have a method of rewiring. We're just relaxing something and it has a total effect on this primal relationship with food. We're relaxing with your body and all of a sudden your food issues relax naturally, without effort, without thought, without accountability. You don't even need accountability. It just happens naturally.
It was this, when you told me in the beginning about giving yourself some grace, that was the one thing that I kind of, that's what I kept listening to when I heard all the other things in the beginning. When you said, you have to give yourself grace. It's okay. Have the bread. Have whatever. Have the cheese. have the banana.
Yes. Just eat it.
And just eat what you want and give yourself grace. It's the when you come out of the factory of the you can't have anything to say I can have this and I'm not going to be punished and I'm not going to feel like I committed a sin. Coming out of that it was a process. It was okay, and I kept telling myself, give yourself grace. I know. I mean, after a banana or two, they're just bananas in my food bowl now. It's not like, oh my god, I must have the banana. The brain is no longer obsessing about the banana.
It just happens naturally.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't take, we got to focus on how many bites of bananas you're going to eat, and we need to take notes on how you feel about the banana, and we're going to make sure we create a pathway to make sure.
I ate the banana and put the peel in the garbage, and that was the end of it.
And that's the end of it. And that right there is so significant to someone who's been a binge eater, because if you're a binge eater, you can't just let that go, especially if you've done something wrong. You have to think about it. It weighs on you. It impacts everything. And to be able to someone who is in the thick of a binge eating or bulimic phase, to be able to eat something and it not affect your day, that would be like heaven. That's the fantasy of someone who wants to get recovery. For someone who wants to recover, that sounds like a fantasy. And here we are 2 weeks later. And your relationship with food is pretty dang simple and easy.
Mm-hmm.
But that only comes from giving your body lenience and grace. That's the only way to have the grace around food, is to give the body lenience and grace, and to forgive yourself for the years of damage that you did trying to fix your body, not knowing that it's what caused the damage, you know?
Yeah.
Pretty awesome process, but it does definitely mean you have to go through the grieving process, the grieving of the fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, not gonna lie, I was kind of like stoked about white jeans in the summertime. They're just gonna have to be bigger.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it makes you put things in perspective. Like, if this is permanent, why are white jeans in summer so big? Why is that such a big deal? Why did you make that bigger emotionally than it maybe should be?
I don't know.
Right? Well, it's part of the trying. It's almost like self-inflicting your own pain to motivate you to change. It's like creating these boundaries or walls around how you're going to reach these goals. And sometimes creating fantasies is a way for you to motivate yourself to get out of what you don't want, right?
Yeah, basically you create like hurdles for yourself so that you can become worthy. You know what I mean? Worthy. For example, you are now worthy. You have achieved worth. You have dieted effectively. Now you must reap the benefits.
Yeah, wearing white jeans is like the symbolic measure of my superiority and success.
Adorn yourself with white jeans.
Yeah, so you have to almost kind of destruct all of that, dismantle these attachments to white jeans and success, and because it's not going to exist. And would you have created that type of fantasy about white jeans in the summer if being that thin isn't an option? You know, if you were blind and couldn't see white jeans, but you're wearing white jeans, would it really have the same effect?
Exactly.
No, it's an illusion in your head that you're creating. It's this weird symbolism or meaning that we put into it, like the meaning around being able to wear white jeans, which makes you can't wear regular underwear with white jeans.
Yep.
I mean, there's layers of work around white jeans that you're not taking into account in your little fantasy about it.
Yep. It's all nuts. It's all the nuts. It's all the nuts that goes with this kind of stuff. So
Right. And to get freedom from that is pretty freaking amazing. So you got to go through grieving, and you got to go fully through it. And that means that you don't have the condition of thinness ever again for anything. For anything. Mother of the bride, vacation, sex, going out in public, wearing a gala dress. That to you, being thin isn't magical anymore. You don't see any magic with it. You don't want it to be a requirement for you to feel good about yourself ever again. And if you can let go of thinness, like think of all the other things that you might want to let go of in terms of what roadblocks, or what we could say, what clouds do you want to put between you and the sun?
I can see it. I can see it 100%. This is symbolic for so many other areas that that I give myself parameters for or conditions, and I'm, my acceptability of myself and my, it is conditional at times, and I see that. So giving myself grace here will afford me to have grace elsewhere.
Oh, yeah. Especially since this one is tied so closely to identity. This is a rough run, especially as a woman. Being able to let something like this go is, especially in a culture that is absolutely narcissistic, very superficially minded around what makes people worthy. To be able to come out of the closet as not perfect, as inferior, and for you to be okay with it, that's badass.
That's what I want.
Right?
What I am.
To be like, well, if I can do this, that means I'm really free to just be real in every area. Because I'm not afraid of being inferior. I'm not afraid of being vulnerable. That vulnerability, once you pass through vulnerability, it's not something to be afraid of anymore. You may feel it in the future with different things, but it's not something that you'll avoid anymore because you know how to pass through it. You've done it. It's like learning how to experience fear and not responding to it. Partly because you can recognize that the experience of fear isn't necessarily an indication of real life and death situation. It might be attached to a tribal issue. It has nothing to do with life and death. It has to do with pride. It has to do with wanting to be valued, and the willingness to feel those emotions without response desensitizes you from them.
So powerful.
It is absolutely life-changing. It opens up so much opportunity for you to explore your life in the time you have here on this planet. I would say that for me, it opened up my marriage. For me to be able to leave my husband when we first got married. That was one of the first things I did after recovery was left my husband. To pursue a degree and willingness to work for it. Willingness to take out loans if I needed to. And ultimately the willingness attracted me to a scholarship. There's so much I see now in hindsight with my life. The willingness to have children, the willingness that if I have them, they're going to die. That I have to be okay with their death. That's not easy.
No, it's not.
The willingness to write a book, to put myself out there, to put my name out there. I could have created a pen name so no one really knew who I was. Didn't do it. 100%. Maybe I should have.
No.
Robin La Cucaracha. I should have named myself that. Something weird.
I don't know if that would have helped. I don't know if that would have helped the premise of the book at all.
Probably not.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, the willingness to post these YouTube videos and to be like, fuck it. I'm not even going to have great language. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm willing to just share it with people and to share the vulnerability of the process that I've gone through over the last 5 years. The experience of being willing to be vulnerable, it just opens you up to avenues that are personal, that aren't always dogmatically subscribed to you from a system.
100%. This is very important. This is where I'm getting at. I'm kind of out of the thicket of the crazy, and now I'm starting to see the actual clearing in the woods of all the other things that this opens up for me. It's actually quite exciting to be here,
right,
in this place,
and to look at your life. That there's levels of survival mode that did you well, got you through med school, got you through what you needed. That type of survival brain is what it takes to get through that type of shit, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
And it served its purpose, but at this point, what do you really need to be surviving in?
My life, to actually to live it.
You don't need to work on survival anymore. You're pretty good. You got what you need. You've got a family, you have people who love you, you have a job, you could give up a lot of what you already have and still be happy and still be great. You could, right? So now you just have
Yeah.
to live in the presence of the life you have and let it unfold. And you're not going to be able to
Yep.
do that if you have to fix something first.
There's always that's where the hurdle is in. I can't actually unwind, or I can't get off this because I didn't do this or I didn't do that. And it's not just with our particular topic, but it's like in so many other topics of my life. So this has told me, okay, well, now you're off the food train. Why don't you enjoy food? Why don't you enjoy your life? If why don't you do that for whatever you got it for?
Yeah, or maybe you need to figure out, what do I want to enjoy? Maybe that's something you have to figure out, is what you enjoy.
What now? What now?
No.
Now that this craziness has been taken off my list of things to do, what can I do with all this time? Because you know how much this time, you know how much this takes?
I know. It takes 95% of most people's day outside of work. Yes, a lot.
Well, I mean, between the 2+ hours at the gym and and all the dieting, quite labor intensive.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. Yeah, sometimes what I find is that when people get to this place of ease, then they tend to sometimes go, well, why am I not working on my body? I should be working on that. It's got problems. And then what do you think happens?
They go back into the cycle.
Yeah, and they wonder why they have food problems. All of a sudden, they're like, why am I overeating? And then they get stuck in, oh, I overate that, I gotta fix it. And then they're just snowball effect, and then they call me 20 pounds later. I relapsed, I don't know what happened. I was like, oh, well, let's go through it. And I've often found that when they find that life is easy, they gotta try to make some type of chaos. I gotta be working on something, otherwise I'm a piece of shit. Yet another belief from culture that is absolute brainwashing.
100%. But as you had so eloquently said earlier, if left alone, the body will correct itself. So
totally, if you could just go into a coma, it would be so much easier. But do you need to really be in a coma, or can you just chill the fuck down?
I would like to not be in a coma. Like to avoid that. So I think chill the fuck down will be the option. Check.
Right.
That'll be what to do. Yeah.
Eat the goddamn banana.
Try eating the damn banana. I'm gonna go home and deal with my crazy life and not be crazy about things, because as you can tell, as I told you earlier today, it's pretty nutty in my house.
Yeah, it sounds like it. But you have such a good sense of humor about it, so.
Yeah, it's either you laugh on top of the bell tower or you shoot from the bell